parents, and there's some who like to be engaged in a constructive way, but they don't know how. There's not a vehicle necessarily, unless they have a complaint they want to voice, and then that's situational about some particular situation. The surveys provide such a nice tool for people to be constructively involved in the entire process. Here it is. Answer these questions. Tell us what you think, what you want, what you value. And that then becomes a part of the whole process. It's an important contribution.
Now I'm starting to understand why we're getting these good results compared to 2 years ago. It's showing up in your results here. The board has done, as a leadership team, you've done some great things.
Right.
Even at board meetings, Luann, a lot of our board meetings are geared toward student achievement.
That's great.
We bring the students in.
I love that. I love that. I have a daughter who teaches in inner city Milwaukee, and I get to go back and visit once in a while. Last week I helped her out. She teaches middle school band in a voucher school there, which is a very typical population of kids. And you got to get in there and you got to know what's going on once in a while. That is not micromanaging. And as you look through your data, you want to, when you say, are we keeping abreast and informed? Part of that is bringing kids in, listening to your teachers, listening to your parents. What are some of the challenges that they face? So that's great that you're doing that.
You make such an important point there. We need to continue to do that. Don't stop doing that.
Right.
I know Mountain Brook's been doing it for years. Every year they do it. And I think it's a valuable thing because it helps build confidence. Not only do you learn from your stakeholder groups, but I think it instills some sense of confidence in them that you value their opinion and you solicit it every year on a regular basis.
That's huge. That's very big in terms of building public will. Not just that, but in terms of results for your kids. That's ultimately what it's about. And, good. So keep up that good work. Any other comments on community collaboration? Let's look at board leadership and learning. So, what are you doing well here?
Respecting one another.
Again, you see some consistent answers there, which is great, because when you have a high level of trust, you can put these issues on the table that you need to talk about as well. And that's helpful in building your team. Okay, what else?
Obviously, we all have an interest in public education, or we wouldn't be here.
That's a sincere interest. Yeah, that's nice to see. Couple of areas. You keeping informed, it says here, by reading, and I see who were at our events all the time, and I'm glad because that's one way you can keep up to date. But certainly going beyond that, reading the articles and even the NSBA Education Week is plenty, aren't there? I bet you Andy keeps you pretty informed on some of that stuff. But keeping yourselves abreast of the changes is good. It's a strength. Keep that up. Go ahead.
The scores are markedly improved when I go to sleep.
I'm sorry,
I
David.
must have not filled out those.
Those last
You
four?
go to sleep, don't finish.
Yeah. How about works actively? Let's see. Okay, so areas that you're a little low. Knowledgeable about teaching and learning. You were a little bit low on that one. And if you're spending more time than you used to on student achievement, that would be an area that you can talk about. Do we have enough time in board meetings to go deep enough to know what it's going to take to change achievement? Are you really up on that? I referred to the research before, boards and high achieving systems, and I think that's where we're changing, where we're seeing changes at the board table. Used to be that was the administration's job, professional development, understanding what it takes, but we didn't get involved in that. Today we are seeing boards having to know enough so that they can make good decisions based on initiatives, based on maybe schedules, but all of that should be driven by which kids you want to reach. So you're still staying at that board governance level, the 30,000-foot level. We know how our kids are doing, and these are areas we want to change. And so what kind of a teaching and learning environment do we need to be creating? What actions are we taking at the board table to impact the teaching and learning in our school? Do we know enough? It isn't necessarily going enough to the curriculum level, because you don't have time to do that.
Well, we can't.
Not the
That comes
curriculum
from
level.
among them.
But what you
So
can
what-
learn about is the effect of teaching in the classroom. What is it gonna take? And listening to your administrators and your teachers and your kids when they come forward, so that you know what effective teaching looks
The
like.
only thing I wanna say, let me just go and play this out. This is just one board member. The only way you're gonna effectively change that, in my opinion, is parental involvement. I can bring the greatest professor from Harvard, Yale, Princeton, wherever anybody thinks they're the greatest teacher in the world. And without a motivated student, you're wasting your time.
Does anyone have a different opinion of
But
that?
that's my opinion.
I know that's yours. Does anyone on this, at this table have a different opinion?
Ruby Painesville.
Ruby Paineswood. Are you all familiar with her work? Do you know what he's talking about? Ruby
I know.
Payne?
Sue?
Ruby Paineswood. Go ahead, Phil, you
Well,
tell.
I don't know
Tell
about
what you
that.
know.
I probably told somebody the story. We went to a national mathematics conference in Atlanta. She was one of the featured speakers. Of course, my wife wanted on and see her, get the book and all this kind of thing. So I'm telling you the book right back in Atlanta. We talked about some of this, and she basically, as I understand it, is pretty much a renowned expert on teaching disadvantaged children. And one of the things my wife pointed out was that one of the easiest ways to teach a kid basic mathematics is using points, nickel, dime, penny. But for a lot of these kids who are at risk, if you will, they've never had any money. They don't know what that means. And so basically you're trying to teach them in a context of which they have no familiarity. So Ruby Payne's thing is, well, how do you teach these kids? What do these kids value? They value relationships. Well, and it goes on, and it's just remarkable, remarkable read to see what she's come up with. But you're right, it's very difficult to do the same thing across the board for every kid and not differentiate between them. That's not
Well,
right.
you can take a group of children, for instance, wherever we're talking about, that are zero, and I can make them a one or a two.
Okay.
Bring them from zero, if that's all you, I mean, but is it, anyway, I just,
No,
what I
this is a
said
good
is what I
discussion.
think, so.
Because it relates to this question here. What can the board learn about teaching and learning? What we see in high achieving systems is that boards have elevated beliefs about what's possible for kids. Boards in low achieving systems accepted that until parents send us better kids to school, we're not gonna do better. So it's an interesting, comment you make, because if you don't think you can change, if you think you have to wait for parents to come around, you are gonna limit what you try to do in your system. However, there's plenty of examples out there where teachers have reached kids in circumstances that we typically would have written off. Are you familiar with some of those stories?
Don't doubt that at all.
We're familiar with those stories, so therefore, if it's possible, the question is, what can the board do then to make sure that more of those teacher beliefs are challenged in our system, and maybe even at the administrative level, in order to change that thinking? Because if it's possible to reach kids, and we're not, who's the problem?
Yeah, but I really think that we do a pretty good job, and the most visible example I know of in our district is Crossroads. And here are kids who not only did not want to go to school, got in trouble in school, were sent there and defiant, and didn't want to learn, didn't want to participate in anything. And all of a sudden, after 6 weeks, they don't leave that school. And what happened is, because of the special staff we've got there who understand these kids, their needs, all of a sudden, they've given these kids an opportunity that they would never have had, and potentially a life they never would have known.